Greetings, friends and followers. It is I, Cardinal Sin. And today, my guest is Andy Masterson. And Andy started training martial arts in 1985. And 20 years later, his Sifu, or teacher, asked him to take over the studio. He now teaches Kung Fu and Tai Chi, among other things, in his New Jersey studio. Andy started customizing action figures between 15 and 20 years ago. Although Andy has been customizing figures for some time, he has risen to prominence when he has started creating figures for high-profile YouTubers. Welcome, Andy Masterson.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. Thanks for being here. Let's check out who we have here so far. Hail to Gap Stargate. And Mr. MH is here. Hail. And Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Andy.
Happy New Year, Gil.
So let's go ahead and kind of get into it. Did you play with action figures when you were a kid? I collected Star Wars figures like they were going out of style.
Oh, yeah. Like most of the people, I would imagine, in our community here, I was sort of the nerdy kid. My brothers were very into sports. I was allergic to everything. I had very bad eyesight. So I would stay inside, play with Legos. Back in the early 70s, we had, I was the youngest of four boys. So we had a lot of hand-me-down toys. And my favorites were the Mego Action Jackson line. And we had just about every superhero out there. I had a lot of the DC, a lot of the Marvel. Back then, it was just like you would get the reruns of the cartoons from the 60s. But we would play with them over and over again. I had all the Star Trek figures, complete with the Enterprise playset where you would spin them around with the transporter. Planet of the Apes figures. We had G.I. Joe.
I had some of those Planet of the Apes figures. Those were cool.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a place not too far from here that has, it's sort of like a vintage toy shop, and so it's right next to the comic book shop that I go to. So I stopped in one day and I was checking out the Mego figures, and I was like, wow, I really remember them being a lot cooler than they are. But they were a lot of fun. It was a great time. And back then they had, unlike today, where you can just buy. They sell you the same figure over and over again with a different outfit or a different setting. Back then with Action Jackson or G.I. Joe, you had a lot of accessory packs that you could just trade off into. Sort of like what happened with Barbie and so forth, but it was a lot cooler. The G.I. Joe would have the octopus set, the deep sea diver set. He would have, the jungle adventure and so forth, and you could swap these things out. Nowadays, they just sort of coerce you into buying a separate figure with all those accessories to it. And then, of course,
I'd like to interrupt you just briefly. Mr. MH in the chat asks, did you say Action Jackson, like the Carl Weathers movie?
The Carl Weathers movie was a takeoff on that figure line. Back then, like there was Mego jumped in on the basically the versatility of the G.I. Joe sets. G.I. Joe came along and they dominated the 6-scale market. And Mego figured that they would just copy it, but they would make an 8-inch figure. And their primary figure line that they owned was Action Jackson. And you could buy the basic figure and you could get all kinds of accessory sets with it. And Action Jackson was a big thing in the Sears catalog. When I was little, everybody would sit around waiting for the Sears catalog to come for Christmas, and you would sit there and circle the things that you wanted and that hoped for, that you knew you would never get, but you would check everything out.
And then,
So
from my memory as a kid, then my parents would find the budget version,
yeah,
of whatever I'd circled or wanted. And I was like, oh. But one Hanukkah, I got Micronauts.
oh,
Remember Micronauts?
I loved Micronauts.
I loved Micronauts. And as soon as I opened that, I was just like gaga crazy.
The thing that I loved best about the Micronauts were they were so articulated.
Mm-hmm.
You could pose them in any kind of position, and that was rare for the 3 3/4 inch size figure. So
and
when they came along,
Micronauts was just a toy line before it was a comic book, right?
Right. Yeah, so that was so that's how Action Jackson came along. So that sort of appealed to the by the time the movie came out, the kids that played with those toys were adults. So the name kind of caught. I'm sure Carl Weathers was hoping it would have taken off a little bit more than it did.
Been more of a franchise.
Yeah, well, back then, before franchises were actually franchises, back then you might usually get a sequel, but that was pretty much it.
I guess the only franchise they had was Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, those were some great days in just pure toy collecting. But everything like that, and then then of course Hasbro, or Kenner rather, got the Star Wars license, and that changed the whole face of the toy market. And when it was one of the things that I felt was sort of a drawback when the Star Wars toys actually came out, they weren't very articulated. They only had hip and shoulder movement, so they're exactly they really didn't move very much. But they got the job done, and there were,
as I recall, you couldn't even put Han Solo's blaster in his hand.
Yeah, and remember the lightsaber on Luke where he just slid it up inside the arm?
Yeah, that was so weak. Weak sauce.
but
we loved it.
I applaud the attempt, but one of the things you see though is that the people that are making current modern figures are people that played with these things. These were the guys that really loved these action figures and saw the potential in them, saw what more they could do with them, and now they're really really running with it, and which is great. Right now is a great time to get into toy collecting because like the options are so varied now. But so as I got older, of course, I listened to my parents and foolishly gave away all my old toys and stopped playing with them. And
I did too. What an idiot I was.
Yeah, I handed them off to the younger brother of a friend of mine, and God only knows what happened to all the Star Wars figures that I had. But yeah, and then I never thought about toys very much. I mean, whenever I would go to a store, I would always check out the toy aisle and stop in the KB Toys or Toys R Us stores just to look around because it was always cool. And then in the mid 90s, early 90s, there was a friend of mine at work, and I was working the overnight shift, and he would come in the mornings in the supermarket, and we developed a friendship. And I had no idea that he was a collector. So one day he just says to me, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Nothing." So let's take a ride. So we headed up to Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, where there was a Star Trek convention. And I had never been to a Star Trek convention or any other kind of fan convention. And so we go up there, and my friend Kat, he's a black guy that played bass in a heavy metal band. Was all decked out in like early 90s like outfit, like black biker jacket, with Indian feathers hanging off it, and dressed completely in black with the boots and everything. And, you know, I'm wearing my motorcycle jacket with a pair of jeans and cowboy boots because I had a horse back then. And we're walking through there. We both have real long hair. And everybody that's dressed as Klingons are looking at us like we're crazy. So here, Persis Kambala was the featured guest. So he had a 6-scale figure of the Ilia character from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and he wanted to get her to autograph it. So that was my first introduction. I was like, wait a second, adults can collect toys? I was like, this is exciting for me. So I was like, you know, as a comic book collector, because when I was about 9 years old, my father took my one brother and I over to the farmer's market where they had this gigantic table full of comic books with half the cover taken off, and you could buy them 11 for $1. So my dad was in heaven because he gave us each $5, and it would keep us quiet for weeks. So we left, and we each had like 100 comic books. So primarily Marvel we got, some DC, but primarily we gravitated towards Marvel. My brother Ed, you know, he quickly became enamored with Thor, the Avengers, Hulk, Iron Man, and more of the high profile. I gravitated immediately towards Captain America, the X-Men, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four. But between the two of us,
those are all my favorite books.
Yeah, we pretty much had every title that Marvel produced or that would get there because it wasn't very reliable.
How old were you at this point?
Pardon? I was about 9 years
how
old.
old?
9.
9?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
1976.
Yeah, so, you got into the comics thing well before I did.
It was, well, then we started drawing them. We started like opening up the comic books and copying the pictures. And that was really the first door into me pursuing like an artistic path, which I later became an art major in college. But it was a great time. Like the stories and everything were so good. The classic storylines were all out there. So flash forward back into the 90s, Toy Biz had started making all these X-Men figures. And as an X-Men collector, it was great because I could see all these figures that were representing the characters I loved in the books. So I started one by one picking up one every week. And I would take push pins and I would just hang them on my wall. And before you know it, I had the entire wall covered in X-Men figures. Of course, my brother would walk down like, that's ridiculous, but that's kind of cool. So it would eventually come back to haunt me, but and then I really didn't think too much about it. Like time went on, and so in '99, when my son was born, we were taking him through the KB Toys, and they had this figure, the Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Is that Steven Seagal?
It's Obi-Wan Kenobi from Phantom Menace, and he was on clearance for $10. So I said, I'm getting this for him. His mother says, like, you don't even know if he's going to like Star Wars. I said, oh, he'll like Star Wars. Yeah. And which became his favorite figure. So he, I started him very early watching Star Wars with me. He was probably about 2 or 3 years old, and he's all dressed up as a little Jedi. And he turns and says to me, Daddy, Darth Vader say, Wook, I the father. So that was great.
Luke, I'm your father. Okay, I get it. I speak baby talk.
So we, as he got a little bit older and he started playing with the figures, I would make a routine of going to the store, checking out the latest offerings and grabbing anything I could find that was like, I would usually wait till they went on clearance which usually wasn't too long. If it was a really cool figure, I'd pay full price for it. Because I didn't know how long he would be into it. And then I started scouring eBay, and it was great. And I found all these different figures, and when the technology came around where they're starting to actually scan the actors' faces, and the sculpts became really good. You had Tamora Morrison's his face was scanned for Jango Fett, and Christopher Lee was scanned for Count Dooku. Were amazing figures. But then Hasbro's dropped the line. It just wasn't profitable for them. So Sideshow Collectibles sort of subcontracted the license from them. So the first thing it's announced they're going to come out with the first figure. It's going to be Jedi Luke. And I'm like, $40. I'm never going to pay $40 for an action figure. That's ridiculous. So, but I wanted to
if you only knew.
I wanted to see what they were like. So I went on eBay, and just for the hell of it, I looked up and like, oh wow, there's a Highlander figure. I love Highlander. So I get the Highlander figure. I was like, wow, this is really cool. It's like, all right. So when Luke comes out, I buy Luke. Like, all right, well, that's all I'm going to get. Well, that didn't work too well. But I decided that I would limit myself. I would only buy the Jedi and the Sith figures, because they made a huge, extensive lineup. They had stormtroopers, and they put out separate lines. They put out Order of the Jedi, Sith figures, Heroes of the Rebellion, the military lines of Star Wars, which encompass both Rebels and Imperial, and Scum and Villainy, so which would kind of be a catch-all for anybody else they put in there.
The most wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah, it was good. They even made the first Jabba the Hutt figure in 6 scale. And anybody that doesn't know, 6 scale basically means 12-inch figure. When it's a lot more accurate to say 6 scale, especially nowadays, because when I first started getting into this, the every figure was the same height. Sideshow would alter them a little bit. They would make the visibly taller characters on taller bodies, but for the most part, everybody was the same height. So they're definitely collectible figures. Like, and there's a whole legality of things that determine what's a toy and what's not. Like, if you look here on the hands of the Hasbro figures, nothing comes off. There's no choking hazards. Right. Everything's made out of rubber. It's large. It's oversized. The articulate, it does not look realistic at all. So the Sideshow figure comes out, and the first thing you notice is like how realistic the sculpt looks, and the outfit, the tailoring on it is superb. About this time, my son's probably about like 6 or 7 years old. So because I'm following all these websites that forum boards and so forth that talk about like when the next figures are going to be released, there's a whole section on there about customizing figures. So one of the main things in customizing were sculpting unique heads, casting them in resin and using them. So I figured I would try it out, and I took the Anakin Skywalker figure, and I sculpted.
Just a quick question: is the Anakin boy figure 6 scale to his height, or 6 scale just like the rest of them? Oh, there you go. Okay.
So he's much smaller. So it's a child's body, so it worked out great. So I sculpted Glenn's head, and I put it on the Anakin body.
Nice. And Andy, I have to say, your head sculpts are fucking amazing, man. Just
thank you.
You are a consummate artist.
I'm actually getting a lot better. I've the more I do it, the better they start coming out. I'm picking up more and more. There's a lot of them I'm going to redo because I just look back on them and it's just like, I can do better than that now. So shortly thereafter, my daughter got a little, and she wanted her own action figure. So I made her into her own little toy that she played with. And
That's
then
cute.
as she got older, she wanted her own Star Wars character, which I made a head for and put it on a Hermione figure from Harry Potter, with little uh, 6 scale, but it's a little tiny body from the first movie. And she just had the best time with that. So then I started working with this a little bit more, and then had made a custom figure for a friend of mine when he got married. He was a police officer for the Philadelphia PD, so I made him like a police BDU outfit, and he was a big fan. It was right when The Walking Dead first came out, and he was a big Walking Dead fan. So I made up a whole box that said like Walking Dead, like Philly edition, and had him all in his zombie hunting outfit. But the thing that really got me into customizing more regularly, my brother Ed was diagnosed with cancer. So it was a throat cancer. So they went in, they did surgery, and my brother was like the epitome of health. Everything organic food, exercised religiously. He was incredibly strong, a very accomplished martial artist. At 49 years old, he was squatting 800 pounds.
Mhm.
And so he gets cancer, and he's, they went in, did surgery, a little bit of chemo, cancer was gone, but then it came back. So he gets diagnosed, it came back. So he's kind of depressed. So I started working on this figure for him of himself. And I wasn't quite finished it, but I was talking to him the one day. He was really down. So I swung by, I called him up and said, "Are you going to be home?" He's like, "Yeah, why?" I have something for you. So I go inside of his house, and he's sitting there. His chair's facing away from the door, so I can't really. He said, and he turns. He's like, "What do you got for me?" And so I hand him this box, and I can't see his face, but he opens it up, and he's really, really quiet. And he turns, and he's got the biggest grin on his face. He's like, and he says, "This might be the coolest gift I ever got." So, and he kept this
That's
thing up on,
cool.
he kept this thing up on the entertainment center in the house. And anybody that came in the house had to go see his action figure. And so that was a big high point. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2016.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry to hear that.
thank you. But that the following Christmas, I got an idea that, well, since we couldn't all be together in person anymore, I started making the whole family in 6 scale, and made a little display there. Like, here's the corner where, everybody was. And so I made one for his son. I made one for all my nephews, my daughter. Did an upgraded version for my daughter. So when she was a teenager in her Harry Potter gear.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
So
Can you get the face really close to the camera? Because I want people to see how amazing your face sculpts are.
yeah, the female sculpts are really tough because the features are so subtle.
Mm-hmm.
When you got, like, my face is beat up and jagged, I got a lot of like harsh angles and stuff to it, so it's pretty easy to capture a likeness. When you get a face that's softer, that's more subtle, it can be pretty challenging to capture a likeness. So that's it's fun, but it's challenging. I
Mm-hmm.
just did a figure for a friend of mine. He's Vietnamese, and Asian features are very, very subtle too. But I was really happy with the result that came out there. But yeah, so I started making different figures for friends of mine. My friend Kat,
I
I
wanted
made one
to
for
ask
him.
you, Andy. Did they ever make Indiana Jones action figures?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's
They did. I
there's
I brought that up because at the end of the show today, we're going to be giving away a 4K UHD Indiana Jones 4-film collection, brand new in the shrink wrap. And you have to be present in the chat to win, or to be eligible to win, rather. So there is that. And please do continue.
So I probably about 10 years ago, I had made my friend Cat, who got me into collecting. It was only right that he gets his own action figure, and I updated it, and because I looked at the sculpt and I was like, I can do better than that, and I made this one here.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
he says to me, "Wow, that's great. The only problem is I'm bald now." So I had to update the sculpt again to reflect the modern look.
Did you still have the negative to make the positive out of, or did you have to redo the whole thing?
I had to redo everything. It was
Yeah.
I resculpted a whole new head,
Wow.
and put everything together like that, which I've gotten much better at with the casting. That's an art form unto itself. The cool thing about this is it's accessible to everybody. You know, you can. My friend Tom, I was showing him some of my figures, and he was a big Hawkeye fan from the comic books and so forth, and the TV show, cartoon, and then he heard the price point on it, and he was, well, I can't afford to go spend $200 on an action figure. So well, you really don't have to. You can go on eBay and you can buy the head for $20. You can buy a body for $20. You can put a whole figure together probably for about maybe $75. And which he did, and he was quite happy with. So then it got him into some collecting and some diorama building. He's really an amazing customizer. He's built a Final Fantasy VII. I've never played the game, but he was showing it to me. There's a bar in there. There's a bar scene called the Seventh Heaven Bar, and he made this exact replica of this thing, and it's amazing. So we've recently started working on some things like so like as I'm making action figures and doing commissions for action figures, he's got this available to him where he can, you can contract him to make a display base or a diorama base for you, which is great because it really is like one of the things I'm doing back here is you take one of these things and you put it on a diorama base and it really pops out. It's more than just like a statue sitting somewhere, and they're posable, and is one of the things that you look at now with the modern action figure is like, these are all the bodies that you can pick up now are basically clones of the Hot Toys bodies. And the articulation, there's like 32 points of articulation on these, and you can put them into, all kinds of different positions, and they'll hold the pose for the most part. Some, even the heavier figures are ratcheted. And you can pick these up for anywhere between.
For the members of our audience that might not understand what that means, what is ratcheted?
Okay, so if you have a figure who's going to be heavier, and which there are some of the bodies that are quite weighty. Like for example, when Hot Toys first got the Marvel Comics license, they made Iron Man, but it was plastic, and when you put a chrome plating on plastic, it chips off, and people were paying like $250 some for an action figure, and the paint's chipping off. So Hot Toys made the decision to go with die-cast metal on the armor. It's more expensive now. The price of the action figure is like well over $300, but it looks amazing. But they're very heavy.
It better. That's a lot of money for an action figure.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's the thing you have to do. You have to look at it. It's a collectible. And the thing about these figures is they don't lose their value. Very, very rarely will you find one on the secondary market that's even close to retail value. Usually they increase in value significantly, no matter how old they are. So, but the ratcheting in the joints, it has like a clicking action to it. So when you lock something into a position, it'll hold up. It won't just get floppy and collapse. So like it's one of the problems with the old bodies that after a while they would loosen up and you would put Thor's arm up in the air and it would fall down, when you put his hammer in his hand because it was too heavy. Whoops. But things like
I also wanted to mention Live with the Love Shack has been saying, "Shut up and take my money," several times. So
it's funny. It's like that's one of the
another
common
customer
things you see when Hot Toys releases a new figure. It's everybody goes crazy over these things. Like very rarely do they put out any duds. Although Howard Chan, the president of Hot Toys, said not too long ago, someone asked him about the Star Wars sequel trilogy. He said, "Yeah, we'll never create anything else for that because they just lost so much money on all those figures."
Yeah.
So
I don't find funny, but
well, this is really the collecting aspect will really show you the health of a franchise because if there's toy
like for instance, they don't make any Star Trek Discovery figures. Well, I guess they have now, but
yeah,
it's been 4 years, and now they've made like 1 or 2, I think.
Well, I think they're contractually obligated. They had to make a couple. Not that they probably won't sell, but I mean, honestly, you're. I think it's. I forget the company that's doing them now. The Star Trek figures. Shatner is really going to sell well. Spock, obviously, and McCoy. But they do a really good job with pretty much every figure. And this is kind of like the hard part with some of these. Now, the great thing about getting into this, and you're starting to see a lot more of this happen because with the rise of YouTube, specifically in the sphere that
the rise of YouTube,
we have this group of fans that are all avid collectors of action figures. There's a lot of people out there that are into the movies and the material, but they're not necessarily aware that like the action figure lines exist. Like for example, you could have a figure of, say, at a Captain America. Okay. And this is the thing with me. I was never going to spend this much money on an action figure. And this was under $200 when I first got it.
Is that your Chris Evans head sculpt?
This is Hot Toys.
Okay.
Now, Hot Toys is incredible. I've actually shown people pictures of Hot Toys sculpts, and they can't tell that it's not the actor.
I wonder if they have a process. I assume they're a licensed, contractor. I wonder if they do the thing where they have the actor come in and do the 360, scan. And
now, most of these nowadays, most of them are digitally sculpted. Up until a few years ago, they were pretty much all hand sculpted too, which is still amazing. And
what's involved in digital sculpting?
Yeah, it's a program that they usually use. It's called ZBrush, and you are essentially 3D modeling the person's face, and you'll compare it to the picture, and you could do overlays and things. It's I've tried doing it myself. I can for me to try and learn this whole new process, it's a lot easier for me just to keep refining my hand sculpting skills. So I'm really not getting into it too much, but there are a lot of guys out there that are really, really good at it. And what you're saying with the 3D printing, there's a lot of accessories that are being built to go along with these. So
gotcha.
You can go in places like Thingiverse, and you can pretty much buy or even some are free, get things, and you can get them printed out at a 3D printer if you have your own 3D printer. But yeah, Hot Toys started with this the Captain America line, and Captain America being my all-time favorite superhero was like, I have to have a Captain America figure. Well, that was 6 Captain America figures ago. But I decided I was going to get one definitive Captain America figure. So I got the Civil War Captain America figure. And then they made the Endgame Captain America that actually had the chainmail armor. I was like, damn it, now I have to get that one. So, but now that's it. I'm done buying Captain America figures.
And Live at the Love Shack in the chat says, I want my Wayback Machine band action figure collection, plus the Tim Possible vintage figure, please. You are, in fact, going to make a drum set for the Cardinal Sin action figure, right?
That's my plan. I started working with, I picked up some aluminum flashing the other day. It was at Lowe's, and I'm trimming it down to make the base for the bass drum on the bottom, and I want to see if I can't make them out of that. And actually, I'm trying to make it to make an actual drum that can actually make some sound on it. I don't know if it's going to work. It's all experimental right now, but we're going to see if it can happen.
Cool.
But well, that's what. And then I got into.
Don't forget to include another pair of sunglasses because mine broke.
Yeah, I got to work on it. Well, now they're back in stock. For the longest time, the eBay stores, they were out of the glasses, so now they've finally got them back in stock. So I'm going to be ordering some more of them. Cool. So I when the pandemic hit and everything's supposed to shut down, and there's my livelihood. And I'm sitting there with a lot of extra time on my hand, and I'm on YouTube watching something, and I had autoplay on, which I didn't even know autoplay was a thing. I just thought that's what YouTube did. So I see this guy in this crazy helmet talking about how disappointing Star Wars was, and I was like,
or Star Trek anyway.
Well, this was like 2019, late 2019. And I think that's like when The Last Jedi came out, which now personally as a Star Wars fan, I always felt that Star Wars had better potential than was ever realized.
Was it 2016 or was that The Force Awakens?
I'm not sure. The Force Awakens
doesn't matter.
We came out, I was like, it was okay. It was like,
it seemed like it was all set up for the next movie, but of course it wasn't.
Yeah. So I started watching some of these YouTube channels, and Doomcock introduced me to the live stream, and I was like, oh wow, this is neat. Like I can sit here and I can listen to people that are talking about the way I feel. So my original intention was like they were talking about, him and Gary were talking about action figures, and like they loved action figures. It's like, hey, it'd be really cool if I could make a Doomcock figure. I couldn't figure out for the life of me how to make the embroidery on the jacket. So it was like I could paint it on, but it's going to be really tough and really time consuming. And then I got a Cricut machine. You plug your computer into it, you download a design, it cuts out vinyl for you, and you take the vinyl and you apply it, you iron it on, and it was like, hey, that's great. So I made the Doomcock figure, and I wasn't thinking anything of it. I was just like, I sent him an email like, what's your post office box? And I just had extra time on my hands, so I made the Doomcock figure, and I mailed it off to him, and I didn't think anything about it. And so I'm at the gym one night, and I hear him saying, like, so I hear you guys want to see the Doomcock action figure. So I'm like, oh well, that's really cool. He got the Doomcock action figure, and well, along with it, I sent a replica of J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot, and he was talking about the robot and everything. So I was like, so I sent him a super chat in there, said that the Bad Robot lights up. Well, here I only put my last name and my return address on it. I didn't even think of like putting a note in there or anything like that. I just thought, oh, this guy probably gets all kinds of neat stuff all the time. This isn't going to be anything special. But it really blew up, and he had me on the show that night. And it was like, he said, "Do you have a Twitter account?" I was like, "Well, I guess I better make one." So that was the beginning of that. And then I made
the genesis of the YouTube content creators figures.
Yeah. And then I made the Gary figure. I figured they could stick these two figures together while they're doing the Inquisition. And I started like, I would catch some of the other shows and stuff. And I was on, usually I could catch the beginning of Friday Night Tights. Then I would have some classes. I'd be done my classes at Friday night by 8:00. And then I would catch Doomcock show. So I saw Az on there, and he was in a hot dog outfit. It's like, that would be really funny to make this guy an action figure with the hot dog suit on. Now, what was really funny is I try to make these things as accurate as possible. For example, there's this Cardinal Sin guy I made an action figure for, but he's really tall. So I made sure to put him on a taller body so that if you stick him next to any other action figures, you're going to be taller. So Az is a little heavier than like the typical guy, but I didn't want to be insulting. I didn't want to, embarrassing. I didn't want to think I was breaking his balls. So my original plan was just to send this figure to Gary and have him send it off to Az. Well, a week after I got Doomcock's figure done, I mailed off Gary's figure. Unfortunately, Gary didn't go to his post office for a good month. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let me just send this to Az. Az is unboxing. He's showing off his figure on a live stream. And he says, like, I think we need to make this put a little extra cushion in here. So here I was like worrying about insulting him. And here he was like, no, you need to make him a little heavier. So, and I really didn't have much of a thought of making any more of these. Although once I did the Doomcock figure, the inquiries about can you make one of these for me were just like hitting me left and right. I was like, guys, I can't. I would love to, but I can't do that because first of all, it's not mine. It's like these guys' likeness. I can't just sell that. Plus, there's as many people that love these creators as hate them, or vice versa. And you really don't want to be having your action figure out there where somebody's going to defile it and like putting in a compromising position, surrounded by, whatever action figure is doing horrible things to your action figure, to your likeness. But I started watching some of the other creators and I was watching Drunk 3PO, and somebody brought up all the charitable work this guy does. And a couple times a year, I'm part of a group that puts on an obstacle course race that donates all the proceeds to charity for creating drinking water for third world countries around the world.
That's awesome.
It's like, well, Jay's really done a whole bunch of charity work. Like, I'm going to do something nice for him and make him his own action figure. And at the time, he's like, the Gina Carano hadn't been fired. All the Mandalorian stuff was really big. So I made a parody of it, and I did a Mandalorian outfit with Jay's head on it in C-3PO armor called the Drunkalorian with I built him a gonk droid that you open it up and it's actually a beer cooler. So that was a lot of fun. And I hadn't followed many other YouTubers very much. Um, then the whole Zack Snyder thing happened with the Geeks and Gamers guys, and
That was awful. I was in that stream,
yeah,
and people were trying to, make excuses for him. He's not a good public speaker, all this kind of stuff. I think the studio made him say that.
Yeah, either way, I just felt
either way, it just wasn't a nice thing to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I really didn't know any of the guys on this show very much, but I saw a video from Anna, that Star Wars girl, and she just titled it "In Defense of Geeks and Gamers," and she was talking about when her sister had passed away, how Jeremy really went to bat for her and picked up the ball and helped her, and did a GoFundMe for funeral expenses and so forth. And I was like, wow, you know what? I'm gonna do something nice for this guy. So it just went from there. And then after that, I've gotten people messaging me about like their favorite creators, or can you make this one? Can you make this one? I'm like, I'm a one-man show here. It's plus I got a full-time job and all that. So it's kind of hard to to work through. I've done since then. I've done a Harvey figure for Doomcock. I did Alex Kurtzman, so he could have a villain to battle. I've made him some torture devices for his for the Bad Robot and Mickey Mouse that can be stretched on a rack. I've done a containment field base for Harvey.
Oh wow!
I made him a figure of Patrick Mcgowan from The Prisoner. I do have to figure out how to do the jacket with the piping on it, which I'm going to use the Cricut machine for. I just have to find a way.
That'll be tough.
Yeah, it's gonna. I'm probably gonna have to cut it out by hand, and then just iron it onto it. But I'll make it work. Then like we had I had your figure,
which I'm breaking out now.
There we go.
And a lot of people, I'm going to make myself big here. A lot of people don't realize Andy makes his own packaging. So this is the interdimensional Guardian version of Cardinal Sin. And there is a method to my madness here. You'll figure it out. He gave me enough rope. I always do that. And although I'm not wearing a Misfits shirt today, I have done quite a bit. And here we have the Cardinal Sin action figure, and that Misfits t-shirt. The Crimson Ghost is perfect. And a pretty good head sculpt. It's very, very, very close. Except, of course, now my hair is black. And you've got the black jeans and the combat boots for the punk rock look. And it even has a V-gun, because I'm a vegan. So I love that one. And as an extra little surprise, I think I finally figured out how to pack this, Andy.
Well, the funny part was that I had the packaging all set up, and then you had mentioned how much you really like Doomcock's Bad Robot. So it was like,
and there's the Christopher Walken head sculpt. I need to turn my light down a little bit.
That's actually Mcgowan.
Oh, right.
That was sort of a rush job. I have to redo that one too.
It's still a good looking head. And the pièce de résistance is the Bad Robot torture figure.
There you go.
So you can do whatever you want to him. Stretch him. Feet come off. Arms come off. They might not go back in, but they'll come off.
Yeah, I had to reconfigure the packaging to put him in there when I sent him off. That's why your packaging's kind of like discombobulated.
Yeah. But thank you. I'm flattered and amazed.
Well, it's the least I could do when you've had me on your show so many times to show some of these things. So then I had Mexican Iron Man contacted me about working on a project for him, and so we're still in the process of that because like the shipping times are so difficult. But he's on some live streams, and they'll refer to him as Darth Pappy. So I created for him like his own head sculpt with the Darth Pappy figure with his speeder bike. That's also a taco shack or a taco truck with a little droid that cooks the tacos in the back. It's
Nice.
funny when I made Gary's figure, he's a big Doctor Who fan, so I dressed his figure as Doctor Who. So, and I originally made a TARDIS to go with it out of wood. But the damn thing's so big and it's so heavy. I'm thinking to myself, like, this is going to cost me $100 to ship it to California. So I never quite finished the TARDIS, but I have it mostly put together. Which I have no idea.
Now you can ship it to South Carolina.
Yeah, really. So then I have I've made some other things, like people have contacted me to get some other things done. I've done I did a figure for Ryan Kennel not too long ago. He was quite happy with that. And I got a few other things that are on the list. It's just like it's nice to pop these things out there and see all these guys that have always had a love of action figures. All of a sudden they can put themselves up on the shelf with it, with their Captain Americas, their Batmans or whatever. And you could be the guy in the cafe as Batman's beating up the Joker or whatever. So it's a very, very fun pastime that I've gotten into, and my hope is that I might be able to offer some of these out there to some of the fans of these channels, but they are labor intensive. It's like the Doomcock figure. I did all the math in there. There's, in just the figure itself, in raw materials, there's $87 worth of materials in each figure. Between
and your time is priceless.
Yeah, it's like it's a lot of it doesn't take up. Putting the rivets on the coat is really difficult.
Oh yeah, that looked like it would take forever. Look at that.
It took me.
That's amazing.
I sat down and I worked on it from start to finish with all the rivets, and it took 3 hours just to put all the rivets in. And there's 105 rivets.
62 in front.
There's
Did you say 100? What?
105 rivets on each figure.
Holy cow!
Yeah. At first, I didn't think there would be that many, but like, wow, they add up.
How long does that take?
It took me about 3 hours to put all the rivets on. Which,
And do you still have the negative for the helmet, or do you have
yeah,
to redo that every time?
yeah, I have the mold for the helmet, um, but the body runs about like anywhere between $15 to $20. Boots are about $10. The hands are $15 for a set of 4 interchangeable hands. The fabric is relatively inexpensive, but like all the rest are little things that add up, like the neck adapter that goes in, that's like $4. The snaps that you put on it, the fabric, the resin that you're using, then the painting and process and so forth. So they're not cheap, but they're unique.
What would you say is the major difference between like the first action figure that you made in that size and the ones that you're making now?
Definitely the quality of my sculpting has greatly improved. As I've gotten into this, my my skill level has greatly increased. The first ones I made, like my friend Kat, when I looked at his that I made for him, I was like, I really have to redo that because
Oh, by the way, Cat is
there
here.
he is. Yeah, there he is. He's the one that
Oh,
got me
thank you
started
for
in this.
subscribing.
Yeah, he's the one that got me started in this when we went up to the Star Trek convention. He felt really bad because he actually had Persis Kambala sign the doll. He's like, pulling the clothes up like she's sign she's signing her action figure on the naked body of the figure. He was like,
That's great.
I felt a little bit bad for him, but he wanted his figure signed. He has a huge collection. He's probably got over 1,000 figures, and he's got like
Wow.
he's a very talented customizer himself. He's got this stage for all of his Kiss figures that's up there, and it's huge, and it looks magnificent with the speakers and everything. It looks very authentic. But yeah, I would say that my sculpting has gotten much better, and even from earlier this year, I've gotten much better. So I anticipate that's just going to keep getting better with time and practice. It's just a matter of how often I'm doing these. So uh, plus the things like when I first started, um, I really never knew how to sew. But my daughter was little. She got into American Girl doll, and
I don't know why, but the glasses or what's left of them are they just happen to be right here on my
oh, there you go.
computer.
Yeah, I cut
That's
those out of
really
a piece of black
that's really
styrene.
strange. I don't know how they got there.
Poltergeist.
I must have been cleaning and put it there. It's as good a place as any. Anyway, I'm sorry. You were saying.
Oh, so I the American Girl dolls. It's a money pit. The dolls are over $100 a piece, and they sell you all this furniture and things. So I started building all the furniture, uh, and but she wanted clothes for them. It's like, all right, well, let's figure out how to sew these things together. So I learned how to sew clothes for her dolls. So I started taking apart the uh, the 6 scale clothing and tracing the pattern out and remaking them into different colors and things. And since then, I've gotten pretty decent at tailoring, which is very helpful. Because you can find a lot of this stuff online. Like one of the things that is cool about this is you can take an action figure and save one of these guys, like I made Jeremy Griggs. I made his action figure as a Jedi, and say he wants like normal
He
everyday
wants
Jeremy.
the hat on, right?
Yeah. I do have to send him a hat. I picked one up. I do have to just mail it off to him. But he could go in on eBay and for probably $30 pick up a whole complete outfit that he could put on his figure for, which is very helpful. And that's the nice thing about the 6 scale. It's so versatile, and you can get so many things for it now. And the like I said earlier, the body types that were available before, Sideshow started it off, and there were a much more realistic looking base model than like the Hasbro figures, but they still looked a little stiff and rigid, which came out great when they made a zombie line, because the figures looked kind of awkward and stiff. But then Hot Toys came along, and Hot Toys has really revolutionized the industry as far as like the articulation, the scale, the just the general look of the bodies.
What was that the impulse for you to start creating the 6 scale custom action figures?
Well, it really became when the potential really started to expand. I really wanted to see how far I could push it, see what else I could do to be to create things that weren't necessarily being put out there. Like I've had people ask me, quite often, like, how could you make me how much would it cost to commission a head sculpt? And that's kind of prohibitive, because the fastest I've ever turned a head sculpt around is 4.5 hours.
Wow.
But that was the exception. And some will take weeks to get down. Quite often you have to work on it and then put it up for a little while, so you're actually able to see the mistakes and the imperfections in it, and then go back and sort of correct these things. Like when you're when you're working on it and you're really happy with the result that you have so far, the best thing you can do is just put it up and not look at it for a while, and then you'll go back and you'll start to see like things you want to correct on it.
You know what? It's the exact same thing with writing. Yeah. I've had many stories that I wrote, edited, revised, put in the closet for 6 months, came back to it, and knew exactly what to do. A fresh look.
Right, exactly. So this is my thing. Like, so I still make figures for friends and stuff like that when I can. Because I've done I've done all my nephews, and what's really odd is the better looking a person is, the harder the sculpt is. My one nephew is just way too pretty. He definitely took, like, my brother Mark is like, he was the best looking of us all. And, I kind of got sick of hearing how good looking my brother was as I was growing up. Like, hey, what about me? Well, you're a nice guy. Gee, thanks.
Yeah. What am I, chopped liver?
So, so I did his figure, and man, it was so hard because his face is so symmetrical. It's like, when you have, and this is really, it's like caricature. So when you have somebody whose face is sort of like I've got, like, a broken nose and like different angles. When you exaggerate those things, it's easier to bring out a likeness. But when somebody's face is perfectly symmetrical, the features are soft, they're subtle, it's very, very difficult to capture a likeness. And
I think we buried the lead here. You said you have a broken nose?
Oh, my nose has been broken 7 times.
Wow. And
Yeah.
that's to do with your martial arts
Oh no,
training and
no.
teaching?
One was the first time was
That's just living in Philadelphia, right?
a crash on my bicycle. Getting a hockey stick to the face. A branch fell on my face when I was trying to hang a Tarzan swing. Um, I got hit with a toy gun when the little kids were running around playing guns, or if they're allowed to do that anymore, I don't know. But remember the old like Daisy air rifle where you would like crank it up
Sure.
and it would boom make that
Yeah.
sound?
A little pellet gun.
Yeah. Well, this was just, it had the cork on the end and it would just make the sound. But it was heavy and it was metal. So I was standing in friend's yard, and while the little kids were running around, and one little boy, bang, I got you. And well, the other, he throws his gun up in the air. And I turned just in time for this thing to come down right on my nose.
Oh, man.
So yeah,
So,
it's been beat up a lot.
any of these times when your nose was broken, did you go to a doctor so they could set it,
No.
evenly?
No.
Okay.
So I did go. I was about 20. The doctor looked up my nose and said, "Wow, I don't impress easy, but that's a lot of scar tissue."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I had my nose broken once, and I got it set by a doctor. And no, I didn't get it set by a doctor. It just it healed straight, I
Yeah.
guess.
sometimes that happens. with
Yeah,
me.
7. Canadian Spider-Man says 7. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it was. But the doing the action figures is like it's just become uh, challenging and fun to kind of see what I can come up with. And I don't just do like an action figure. Like everyone who's unboxed these has always said, it's the accessories that come along with them that really make them stand out. The Because it's like that's where you really put some detail and some personality into it. It's not just like, oh, you have a figure. It's like, you have a figure and it comes with this, and then you have Doomcock was pretty easy because he's already got the character there. He's already got the accessories like the reactor background. He's got, the I found a little Sabu, or a little squirrel that I repainted as Sabu. Um, of course, the Harvey was pretty easy to do. Although I am redoing the Harvey figure because what I originally did with him was I took a Watto body from Star Wars, repainted it green, swapped out the head, changed the hands and feet a little bit. But now I found little tiny bodies that I'm gonna paint green and redo the head sculpt and the hands and the feet and put wings on the back. So I'm gonna see if I can't like offer some of them up for sale.
Are there a great deal of Cthulhu bodies out there?
Well, no, it's actually a child's body. Hang on 1 second. I'll show it to
Mhm.
you.
And again, I just wanted to mention that we will be giving away the 4K UHD 4-movie collection of Indiana Jones at the end of the show. So that's even new in the shrink wrap there. So make sure to stick around until the end of the show for our giveaway. And back to you, Andy.
So this is the child's body here, and if you you compare that to,
Hey, it's not anatomically correct. No, I'm kidding.
so what I'll do is I'll end up painting him green and put the little. I'm going to try and make the head look as much as like his plushie as I can, so it's got that continuity to it. but I'll have to sculpt hands and feet for him to make little flippers and so forth to go along with it. But that's on the drawing board when I get
Mr.
done.
MH in the chat says, if you find an octopus toy, you can turn it into Harvey.
Well, my original plan with the Harvey figure was to make the head out of silicone, so the tentacles would be squishy and floppy. But my skills at casting the silicone turned out to be less than acceptable, so I ended up just sculpting it and casting in resin for the original one. But then I have I'm working on creating this network of other customizers that can do different things. So I'm doing the female bodies. They have a silicone overlay to create the breasts and the abdomen and sometimes the arms, and which is fine if you're doing a Scarlett Johansson character or Elizabeth Olsen. But when you're evil and devious like I am, and your desire is to really create a Kathleen Kennedy figure who's 70 years old, and I have to include a turkey waddle neck, with some wrinkles and maybe some saggy breasts to with
or maybe a turtleneck that when you pull it down, it has the waddle.
Yeah, well, I have to get the I have to create a sculpture and then a mold, but there's
I was thinking, could you do that with latex? Liquid latex.
There's a urethane rubber, but I'm not good at casting urethane rubbers. But there's a girl in Illinois that I buy the neck adapters off of. She makes she casts her own neck adapters that go inside the head, and her name, the eBay shop is called Red Winter Designs, and so I'm going to see if I can't send this original out to her and see if she can't make a urethane rubber bodysuit, basically, that I can pop on, take the other one off and put this one on. That will look, and there's a lot of potential for her to get some sales out of it, just because of there's people out there would want to make like a witch or a crone figure for, like, say you wanted to do like the three witches from Macbeth, where you can't obviously have this
Scottish play.
Yeah, you can't have the wrinkly old face with perky breasts and a pristine neck.
Right.
So it just doesn't quite fit. It kind of takes you out of the mood there. So that's on the plan too. But there's a bunch of things I want to do, like with I would like to create some of the villains in our pop culture mediums but I have to find very short bodies, because like we see Rian Johnson is short. He's probably very sensitive about it. So I have to find a short body for him. Same thing with J.J. Abrams. So,
and they're public figures, so
exactly
their likeness isn't protected.
Right. So, and if it's a little on the ball busting side, sorry, that's just me.
But yeah, what's the worst they can do? A cease and desist order?
Right? Yeah, and at that point, it's just a matter of and then, like, well, what we see is the more people make a fuss, the worse the attention gets for them. It's like then it makes them look petty and and whatnot.
And the better attention you get.
Yeah. So, but that's some of my intention, because I would like to have if some of these guys have me produce figures for them and somewhere down the road, I'm sure people would love to have like a Doomcock figure there, like torturing J.J. Abrams or torturing, Alex Kurtzman. And you can have a whole rogues gallery, a villains gallery of figures up there that can be, just like you'd have your Sith line. You have the Vandals of pop culture. But that's on the upcoming block. Is my ideas are never ending. They just keep getting pushed out further and further to things I'd like to do. Just a matter of like I don't have enough time in the day. Like right now, I'm averaging about like 4 to 5 hours sleep a night, and it's catching up to me.
Yeah, especially if you're a chronic pain patient with back problems like I am. Sleep is everything.
Yeah.
It's you heal more and better when you're sleeping. So
right.
At least I do.
So, but that's where I'm at right now. I do want to get into, there's a bunch of other things out there that I'd like to see some representations of. I have to go back and like I'm looking at the drunk 3PO sculpt, and I'm like, I can probably do a little bit better on that now.
I think that looks exactly like him.
Yeah, but
that looks like Jay perfectly.
Well, it's funny because he went out they had that big meetup out in Vegas, and so he fell asleep on a couch out there, which became like the biggest meme. So right. I teamed up with Fet for Hire with his amazing talents because
who, by the way, not only has made our beautiful background, but also has made a ton of designs for me, which I've made into merch, which you can find here. And I just wanted to shout out Fet for Hire. He's an outstanding artist, and the two of you guys working together, I can't imagine. It'd be amazing.
I plan on repaying him with sending him his own Doomcock figure and some accessories, because I would love to see him be able to do some stop motion things.
That would be cool.
I took some pictures, and because when I made Doomcock his torture accessories, the rack that actually works and can actually stretch the Bad Robot and the Mickey Mouse. I wanted to make a video tutorial about like and showing how it worked. But then I got thinking like, well, it would be better if we set up this whole this whole scene with it. So it was right about the time when Ta-Nehisi Coates compared Jordan Peterson to the Red Skull. So it was like, So I sculpted a Jordan Peterson head sculpt, and I used the Cricut machine to put like the lobster Hydra logo on a big red flag. And I took the Jordan Peterson head sculpt and I put it on my Red Skull body. And I made a couch. Doomcock's laying on the couch, and he's talking to his psychiatrist, who happens to be Jordan Peterson in his Hydra getup, who tells him like to take control of things and just start making his bed, do something small, which like inspires him to start taking action. And he goes downstairs and he starts to torture the robot. And so I took some pictures and I sent it off to the amazing Fet for Hire, who you can see it on his channel. It's called Cock Therapy, the video he made. And it's quite entertaining.
You don't have the link for that handy, do you?
No, I don't, but you can.
I will ask my mods if you could please find the video for that. That's on Doomcock's channel, right?
No, it's on Fet for Hire's channel. It's called Cock
Fet for Hire. Okay.
So, but I plan on sending him some things that he can. Right now, I'm waiting on rivets. They come from Thailand, and the backlog is so held up. It's like 3 months before they get here. So, which is odd because everything from Hong Kong is like 3 weeks. But I'm trying to get things as caught up as much as I can.
Wow, 3 weeks. That's great. When I ordered
Usually
stuff from
because
Hong
it's
Kong,
air
it
freight.
was like 3 months.
Yeah, the air freight on the East Coast worked a lot better. Anybody that's getting stuff ordering from California is usually coming by ship, and they're so backlogged out there. It's horrendous. But yeah, so those are some of the things I have in mind for the future.
Here we go. There's cock therapy. And Jill, would you put that in the private chat so that I can put it up on the screen?
But yeah, this is a great time to get into collecting. There's a lot of third-party materials out there that are very, very, very high quality.
And when you say third party, are these the unlicensed figures?
Yes. They'll, for the most part, they're figures that Hot Toys would never make because they wouldn't be profitable enough. They would never sell enough of them for them to turn a profit because Hot Toys would have to produce things in the thousands because of their setup. But you have smaller companies that are more than willing to jump on these things, and they create really high quality items. I just bought a Green Goblin figure. Of course, it's called the Green Menace. From the comic, it's a comic book version, and it's fabulous. It's like it's more cartoony, more comic book looking, but it's a great figure, and it's exactly what I wanted. As much as I love Willem Dafoe, I didn't care for the representation with the metallic armor and so forth, and the Power Rangers helmet. So this was a much better alternative for me. But they've made some great figures and relatively cheap. And a lot of these things come with installment plans that you can get on. Sideshow offers installment plans that you can get on. So and they take, like a Hot Toys figure will take you, for example, I ordered the classic suit Spider-Man and over, I'm going to say back in March. It's supposed to be released in March of 2022. So there's a year turnaround by the time like you finish paying for it. So
right.
It's you can either save up or you can do installments. What I do is like there's two major considerations you have to put on your collecting. One is cost, and the other is display area. I don't have a whole lot of display area, so I've limited myself to what I'll buy. I have a select group of Marvel characters that I will continue to build with my collection with. I have a large number of the Sideshow Star Wars Jedi figures. I did buy a Qui-Gon figure. A friend of mine last year bought me a Yoda figure. Despite my objections, he just wouldn't take no for an answer. So he bought me the Hot Toys Yoda figure, which is really cool of him. My friend Dan, great guy. But I have pretty much all of the Sideshow Star Wars Jedi figures, but I never got a I never got the episode 1 Obi-Wan, and they never made an episode 2 Anakin. So those are probably the only ones that I will get. Although the Jedi Luke figure is really spectacular, so I might end up caving on that. We'll see. But really, like that's my limitations are space, and I don't want to spend a car payment on action figures. That's a little excessive to me, but it is a hobby, and it's like anything else, as long as you keep it somewhat under control. Like my friend Kat, he went and bought the Ecto 1, the car from Ghostbusters, and this thing looks amazing. He sent me pictures of it. It's huge. I mean, it must be probably about like I'm going to say like 3 foot long. It's gigantic, but the action figures fit into it. And it's, if you have the room for it to display it, man, that would be an impressive display. So
The Time Prophet from the chat says, Andy, what about a Zaphod Beeblebrox with a detachable head? The only problem there is you'd have to do 2 head sculpts.
It's funny that when Sideshow made Mace Windu, they included a little stump that you could put on his wrist, so where his hand was cut off. So yeah, that could be done, relatively easily. But yeah, you would have to do 2 head sculpts. But a lot of these figures do come with multiple interchangeable heads, like the Captain America figures. This is pretty cool. The head on this has a magnetic front. So what you can do, you can actually change his expression. If I can get this off. See, the face comes off. It just attaches with a magnet. So
That's
you can have
awesome.
A normal face, a grimace, or like a slight sneer, which is pretty. And some of the other ones, they have this thing where you can pop the back of the head off, and you can actually change the position of the eyes. So you can have like the figure looking straight ahead, or the eyes could be looking off to the side. It's really impressive.
Wow.
But yeah, it's like I said, it's an amazing time to get into the hobby because it is so versatile. And for customizing, like I'm doing this big diorama background here, and I plan on creating comic book Hydra bad guys for it, so they'll be kind of littered around the place, and you can buy the basic body for like anywhere between $15 to $17, shipped, and you have to put together the outfit and so forth, but it's really not that expensive if you're just doing one or two at a time. But the options for you, and you can find pretty much everything, any franchise that you might want, you can find out there. There's
speaking of franchises, you mentioned on one of my Midnight to Midnight episodes, which is my late night show. It doesn't go from midnight to midnight. It's named after Psychedelic Furs album, because all the good midnight names were already taken. But you mentioned something about not liking the Marvel figures that were out there, and so you just made your own for yourself.
Yeah, well, there's some. For example, like the Hawkeye figure.
Yeah, can you show us?
I really didn't like the outfit they gave him. I wanted something a little bit more reminiscent of the comic book. So I made my own for that one. Which I'm probably going to redo it.
Can you put it up close to the camera real quick so we can see the face sculpt?
I didn't do the face sculpt. I bought that one, but I just did. But
all the accessories and everything are yours.
Yeah. Now my brother Ed, the figure that I made for him, he was always a huge Thor fan, so I didn't want to just copy it. So I made him his own figure with a Thor theme. The hammer is
Mjolnir.
It's actually metal with some Celtic runes dremeled into it, and the armor is all metal.
Very nice.
That was the that was really got the ball rolling. But yeah, you can get variations, and the cool thing about your toy shelf is it's completely up to you. You could take your favorite version of You could take a Christopher Reeve Superman. You could stand him next to a Ben Affleck Batman or a Michael Keaton Batman, Gal Gadot Wonder Woman. you could create or what I did was they never made a Namor figure yet. So one of my favorite teams was the Invaders set in World War II. My father fought in World War II. My favorite was Captain America. Was like a bonding thing we did. We would watch documentaries, World War II documentaries together. So I created a Namor figure.
There are so many great history channels on YouTube. I'm subscribed to a lot of them, and I can't get enough. I love World War II history, Roman history, not so much American history, but yeah. Oh, that's great.
So I took a Sam Worthington head sculpt and I modified it with some pointy ears and a widow's peak. And I made another mold of it and recast it. Put little wings on his ankles.
There you go.
And then I wanted an original Human Torch figure, but I couldn't find a way to make him flame on. But I took a Ryan Gosling head sculpt because I figured it looked kind of old timey, and just made a red jumpsuit for him. So I've got my Human Torch. I've got my World War II Captain America. I'm working on some of the other figures for it to go along with it. But that's the nice part about this is like some of these figures that you don't even have to necessarily want a costume for. You can go on eBay and order street clothes for them and have your own setup. It doesn't have to be, and like I said, there's so many licenses out there, so many intellectual properties that all have an action figure collection along with it. It's so easy to pick up anything you want relatively cheap.
The Time Prophet in the chat says, Andy, do you hand sew or use a sewing machine?
I use a sewing machine. I hate hand sewing. To me, that's like it's torture, and it never comes out right. So, yeah, I learned how to use a sewing machine.
What are some of the figures you have that you've made that maybe we haven't seen?
Well, let's see. You've seen the Doomcock figure. I have the Nerdrotic figure. I don't know where I put his glasses, but he's there. I have the Ash figure. Now this base body is World Box. They excuse me, they make my personal favorite of like the 6-scale bodies. They're very heavy. The plastic they're made of is very durable. And this one is molded in like a large stomach, it's and I really when I made as his figure, I put like a fabric fat suit on underneath it. And someone was asking me about to see some of these figures. And what I do is like I have I had a couple extra bodies laying around. Well, I didn't have a figure that I could put I know what it was. It was someone had said something about as on one of the live streams, and so me being a smart ass, I took the as figure. I had this body that I ordered that's the plump body, and I figured, you know what, let me be a smart ass here. I took a piece of looks like fur, and I put the Az figure on there laying naked with a towel, strategically wrapped over him. So, which
Tell us, Andy. Tell us about the yellow and red costumed Az figure and how it came to be.
Oh, the hot dog figure. Okay, so he was on Friday Night Tights one night, and he shows up and he's wearing a hot dog suit.
I happened to be watching that actually at the time.
Yeah, I don't know how it came on. I just saw the clips of the hot dog suit, and I was thinking to myself, that would be a really funny thing, because that's my main thing with this. I just wanted to have a few laughs. I want to do I wasn't looking for attention. I wasn't looking for certainly what this has turned into with but I like I like producing this stuff so that it gets some humor out there. It gets some it's all good-natured fun. So I made the hot dog suit. Well, the first one I made for him, it didn't really fit too well. So I redid it and I sent him another one so he could actually put it on and he's wearing the whole hot dog suit. And he's launching a secondary channel that's all about and him and Robert Meyer Burnett do a very good version of coverage of 6-scale toys on their shows.
Is that fully articulated?
Yeah, when it's on Robert's channel, it's fully articulated. When it's on Az's channel, it's Hot Toys.
Oh, okay, right.
And they alternate every other week. So Az is supposed to start his secondary channel that's just for his toys and his Legos and all the things that he likes to collect. So he's got a few other things that I've sent along his way. Now, there's a member of Robert's subscribers who is doing a head sculpt for him. So I wasn't going to step on anyone else's toes with that. But I've made some other things for Az that he's going to be putting on his channel with that. I had the Drunk 3PO figure, but I sent that off to Jay because I took the couch that I made for Doomcock, and I sent that. I wasn't going to do anything else with the couch, so I made him for his psychiatric appointment, and I sent that down to Jay for Christmas. Now he's got his figure laying on a couch.
Oh, to match the meme.
Yeah, and I made him a little pillow with the Goonies logo on it.
By the way, that's very cool. I love the Goonies. Do you take photos of these before you send them off?
Usually, yes, but I have forgotten several times to do that. And fortunately, everybody that I've sent figures out to has been gracious enough to put out a video or take pictures of it on postings to put it out there. I usually have I'll make multiple castings. I've got your head here. And eventually,
looks like Data's head. Hang on a sec. Let me make you big here. Oh, yeah.
So eventually, when I get some more bodies, I got another shipment coming in. But it's been about 3 weeks. So with the holidays,
nice detail on that, Andy.
What's that?
Nice detail.
Oh, thank you. But I've got because I plan on having a full setup of to show people what I've done. I got Mexican Iron Man. I have Jeremy's that he did. I had, the Ryan figure that I did was, it was, no ma'am shirt. He's always like, but I have to get I had to order a tall body for your figure, so that usually takes a little bit longer. The basic ones are pretty easy. You can find them by U.S. sellers. So, yeah, if you were to hold your figure up next to, say, this one here, you'd probably be about 2 centimeters taller. But I find the scale is important. It gives a little bit more realism to your shelf instead of just a standard, everybody's the same height. Yeah, so if you were to stick that next to the Hot Toys Hawkeye, your figure would probably close to like 3/4 of an inch taller than him.
And I'd blow him away with my vegan.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how you made this perfect Misfits shirt?
Yeah, that's the cricket machine. What it does is you take the image, you load it into the machine. It's like a printer, but instead of printing it out, it's got a little blade that cuts out the image on vinyl. And then you peel away the parts you don't want, and then you iron it on, and it stays on the fabric.
It's my favorite part. I love it. It's great.
You can get. I used to paint these things on like like this shirt here, the Megadeth shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I actually made that for my son's action figure. Before, like, he went Jedi mode, and I stuck him up because he confiscated my clone troopers that I ordered from Sideshow. I have like Commander Cody, Captain Rex, and a generic clone trooper. So he confiscated
Commander Cody. Wow.
Yeah, and he's got them.
That takes me back.
His shelf. So
cool. Let's see. I'm just looking at the chat to see if there are any questions for you here.
But the process I do, I'll start off with I use Super Sculpey Firm to make the actual sculpt with, and there's skin texturing techniques that I've learned recently that I've been using that really adds a different level of detail to it. I'm actually thinking of having my daughter paint the heads the next time I do it, because she's got such an amazing talent for color, color blending and so forth.
Now, you mentioned a Mace Windu figure.
Yeah, it's a Sideshow.
By the way, stay tuned, folks, for our giveaway. I was curious, Andy, if you thought you might be able to make a Nick Fury head sculpt with that Mace Windu.
Well, actually, they Hot Toys already has it. They've made several versions of it, and you could. That's a good example of a figure that if you wanted to put together cheaply, it would be very easy to do. You could go on eBay, and you could probably pick the head sculpt up for about $20. The black body will usually cost a little bit more than they say they're Caucasian bodies. Most of the bodies are fit more towards an Asian skin tone, but it really doesn't matter on your shelf. Most of the time what you'll find is, like, if you look here, like the skin tone between both of these fellas it's different. Like what you usually find is the skin tone they give you is more of a deep chocolate brown, which you really don't find happening that often. And of course, it looks different in each kind of lighting too. So, but you could probably put together a Nick Fury figure for yourself for less than $100 easily. So,
before we get to the giveaway of our 4K Indiana Jones 4-pack, well, 3-pack and a coaster, as they say, I wanted to ask you, what do you think you would like people out there to know, let's say in the chat, or people that are watching this later, to know about you and your process that maybe we haven't talked about or talked up?
The main thing that I like to put out there is to give people their own utility for their collectibles. That and that's what I like about the 6-scale action figures, because there are a lot of amazing statues out there, but the statue is always the same. It sits there. It's like always. You really can't interact with it. It's there. You dust it off, and it looks the same. You can take these, and I've had people that look at some of these figures, and the detail and the amazing likenesses in the sculptures themselves. It really is art. And one of the things we see over and over again, one of the common complaints, is that how much our franchises have let us down. It's you see like what's happened
And
with
that,
Star Trek.
of course, affect all the contractors that make the toys, etc.
Right. Well, you can set up your shelf and it can represent your favorite memories. But the thing that I like the best about it is it gives you utility. You can make it your own, and you can, whatever way you like it. There are people out there that will stick a Hasbro toy next to a hot toy. Some people will come over to your house and say, turn their nose up at it, which my response is throw them out of your house. Like that's
right.
It's your shelf. You can do what you want with it. And it gives
Right.
you the agency that you can have your own representation of things. You don't have to depend on somebody else to make something. It's yours. So you own that in your mind. Call it headcanon, call it your own take on things,
Initiative.
whatever. Yeah. But it's like you have that ability to it. So no matter what happens with, if they take Star Trek and they make, the Mikey Spocks, and they, and you turn Spock into this, like, I like science, like, which is completely un-Star Trek like.
Do you still have your Mikey Spock figure, or did you already send it?
Oh, I have it, yeah.
Yeah, we should see that. And if Jill is back, we will get to our giveaway very soon. Oh, I'm going to make you big here, Andy. And so this is Sonequa Martin Green.
Yeah. Now, since her Star Trek doesn't have very much to do with real Star Trek, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, hopefully Doomcock isn't watching this, because this is
no, I don't think he is.
But it's going to say Starfleet janitorial on the back, because she's going to come with a spray bottle for a mold cleaner, for the spore drive.
Oh,
and
right.
With a holodeck program of Discovery. So the whole thing was just her fantasy.
And of course, you'll have to make sure to include a phaser facing backward.
Well, what I was going to do is give her the spray cleaner bottle facing backwards. So that would be the joke there with it. But yeah, like, so no matter what they do with the franchise, like, you always own your DVDs. If you own physical media, you own the DVD. They can't change it. If I own all my old comic books, they want to go and make, Captain America a Hydra agent, like, or for my taste, like the ending of Endgame never would have happened. Captain America never would have abandoned his post. He would,
exactly.
Captain America just accepts his situation and makes the best of it. So in my universe, yeah, it's Chris Evans is a stand-in. Captain America is Captain America. Those things didn't happen. And that's what I like best about this. You can, by giving people their, we spend a lot of time being angry over what they've done with our franchises. Well, you can put it on your shelf and it can represent anything you want. You can have it set up so you can, you can have your ending of Superman or Batman or there's a third party called Susu Toys that made this incredible Robin figure from the Titans. And although I've heard that the show is pretty crappy, the costuming on the Robin was great, and it fits in perfectly with like a Batman figure. My friend Kat, he's huge on the 1966 Batman. He's got the Hot Toys figures. He's got the Batmobile on order, and he's got this ambition to create the entire 1966 Batcave display for it, which I know he'll do, and he's going to do an amazing job with. And I plan on having him on, when I can figure all this stuff out with like doing cameras and live streaming and filming videos, to have him on to show these things off, that he can show you with, what he's done.
Andy, trust me, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
But yeah, this is, that's what I want, is like, I want people to feel like they can do these things. They don't have to feel hopeless. They don't have to feel, because you always have your originals. Like the Disney sequel trilogy doesn't take away the original trilogy. And it doesn't matter whether, no one's really going to live up to your idea about what your heroes should be like better than you. So if you can come in from work and you've got a shelf full of action figures that represents your memories, and that's the thing, right? Because toys that's our childhood. That's when things were so easy for us. And even if it wasn't easy, it was our refuge. It was like, for the kids that got picked on, and the kids that didn't fit in, and the kids that were little ostracized. This is our world. And this was like, and if I can step back into that a little bit, like, and I tried doing this when my kids were little. I tried to play like I used to, but it wasn't there anymore. I couldn't make believe. And
it does seem to be part of the human condition that there are many things, actually. I do a paranormal show, Into the Fringe, as well as my other shows, and I've been into the paranormal all my life, and there are kids that are, I guess, reincarnated, that speak the language of their previous life when they haven't studied it, or they're like 3 or 4 years old, and these things kind of go away once they hit puberty. Same thing with Uri Geller and that kind of stuff. A lot of people that have or exhibit special abilities or powers end up making it up when they lose those special abilities or powers. And I think that the imagination of children as we play tends to be beaten out of us by school and work and sometimes family, So it's, yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from.
Well, that was like when the thing that really benefits me from all this is the reaction that I get from when people open these up. And I've been lucky enough that your unboxing stream was that made me feel so good, like just the sheer joy that you got opening it up and seeing it. Doomcock, his reaction was, I was blown away by his reaction. I did not expect anything to that extent. To be honest, I thought Gary would have like a bigger reaction than he did. Although he's got his figure up front, prominent in his display thing on his island of Hot Toys figures. As was like, he was absolutely giddy with delight. He just couldn't stop gushing about it. Jay was in shock. He thought that was like really cool. Jeremy was like, his Twitter post was like, he did like, 3 separate posts on it, how amazed he was with it. Ryan was like, he was very, very excited. Everyone I've shown the video of Mexican Iron Man opening up his figure couldn't stop laughing with his enthusiasm and his giddiness over like the so for me, that's a big deal. Like when I can see the reaction somebody gets of opening this thing up, and the and it's not just a figure, it's the silly things that go along with it. It's like I'll throw in there, that I tried to personalize it with, it kind of go along with each person. So that's my takeaway from it. That's my thank you, if you will. So
do you screen capture the unboxing and hang on to those?
I have I bookmarked everybody's live stream that's done it, so I can go back to it. I'm still learning how to clip some of those things. I plan on doing that with like a compilation of each person that's unboxed their figures on air, and I want to keep going with this. I want to, I feel it contributes something to the overall community. It's become a I was really shocked. The other night I was just on like a random live stream as I was working on some different figures and things, to hear somebody bring my name up, and like everybody was like, praising everything. I was completely in shock. So
that might have been Cardinal Sin and Friends. I mean, Midnight to Midnight.
No, this was New Year's Eve. It was Nina's show. And I had I was working on my backdrop here, and because I was looking in the back, and so plain.
It looks nice.
So I've been working on it for months, but thank you. It's like, it's my intention is to put a big
you could put your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man back there.
Well, he's going to be clinging to the wall at the top when it's done. That's going to be painted up like a night sky and a building silhouette in the back. Spider-Man's going to be, either swinging or stuck to the wall. Green Goblin will be flying. I got a Falcon figure that'll be flying. I've got Ghost Rider. I got Doctor Strange. So I plan on making a Shumagorath figure, like bursting through the house. So
very cool.
But it's it's a little bit different of a display. But they brought something up about like some of my figures, and I was like, wow, like I didn't realize that many people were even aware that I'd made so many. So that was kind of fun.
There is a question from Mr. MH. Andy Masterson, do you have a Prince Zazor figure in your collection? Always wanted to see a proper Zazor figure. I'm probably not pronouncing that right.
Yeah, Zazor.
Zazor.
I do not have one, but I would say that like you're very likely to get one in the near future. Star Wars is doing a Thrawn trilogy, a Thrawn representation in their Disney Plus shows, and Hot Toys has made a ton of Mandalorian figures. They've made an Ahsoka figure. They've made Boba Fett. They just released a Fennec Shan, Agent May figure. I would bet that you're going to get the supporting cast represented from the Heir to the Empire series. You'll have a Zazor. You might have you're going to have a Thrawn figure. you're going to have a lot of these things that are going to come out. I think I'll look around, Mr. H, and see if I can't find. I know someone has made custom figures of Zazor, but I personally haven't. But I know someone has.
Cool.
You will get an official release of it.
What are some of the figures that you wish were out there that aren't?
Ooh. Some of the more obscure characters in Star Wars, the Sideshow did a really good job with a lot of the aliens, alien Jedi.
Like in the cantina?
They did.
I remember the Hammerhead Star Wars figure from back in the day was, I mean, it looked like Hammerhead, but the detail wasn't as good as they are now.
Yeah, they have made, I believe they're called Ithorians. You have Kit Fisto.
Oh, wow.
And Kiadi Mundi. And Plo Koon.
Nice.
They also did a Ayla Sakura, the blue girl. But there's some background characters that they didn't make. And I always thought it was sort of a missed opportunity. But this is probably the area where a third-party company will come in and do those. The Marvel figures, I'd like to see some. I have an ambition to create a Man-Thing figure. Always one of my favorites.
Man-Thing.
You know, the swamp creature from Marvel, if anybody doesn't know. There's a statue, a maquette, that Bowen Studios created, and the thing is absolutely gorgeous. I would love to be able to make an articulated 6-scale figure of this thing, but I have to get my molding and casting skills a little bit better for it. Because I'm going to have to work out the articulation. I'm going to have to put in different joints and so forth into it. And the figure will probably be about 14 to 16 inches high, like similar to a Hulk figure that they make. But yeah, things like that I would like to see. I really want to see a proper Fantastic Four set. Which
I was just going to ask you about that, because I understand they're going to be doing a new MCU Fantastic Four film.
Well, that's going to be problematic because given the current state of Marvel, you're not likely to get them looking like they did in the comic book. There will probably be, Johnny Storm will probably literally be a flaming homosexual.
Very clever.
They're going to. I'm hoping that you'll probably have some level of protection with Ben Grimm, because there's so few Jewish characters out there that hopefully they would think twice about swapping out one ethnicity for another. And I agree with Eric July with a lot of this, is because when they just race swap a character, what they're actually doing is they're being really lazy. Instead of taking an existing black character that hasn't had a chance to have a spotlight, that has been blocked from their creation, and it's an integral part of their personality, like the Falcon. Like, you make the Falcon Captain America. Falcon's Falcon. It's like he doesn't need somebody else's hand-me-downs to be a great character. When I was
No.
10 years old, my father took me on this hunt, and I finally found my Mego Captain America and Falcon figures, and I was in heaven. They were when I first started collecting Captain America comic books, it wasn't Captain America, it was Captain America and the Falcon. And I had a Captain America figure and a Falcon figure, and I was just tickled pink.
Yeah, I used to collect Captain America and Falcon.
Yeah. But there's so many characters out there that they haven't touched, like they're going to do the new Blade series, and everybody loves Blade, but nobody, when I tell people that where they messed up with Blade is actually British. So talk about a role for,
I didn't know that.
yeah. Talk about a role for Idris Elba or
oh yeah.
What's the fellow?
Wesley Snipes is Blade, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
I mean, you'll never find another person with that kind of, martial arts ability. He was already a martial artist, I think, before he became an actor, wasn't he? Yeah. Let's see that one.
Now, this is one I put together. I missed the initial release of the Blade figure. So I bought the head sculpt and the body and made the rest of the outfit.
Cool.
I still have to make him an actual sword, but I'll get to it.
Do you think at this point you would be able to make a Blade head sculpt that's more accurate than that?
No, this is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take the glasses off.
Yeah, it looks like Wesley Snipes.
Now,
the costuming must have been a bitch.
It was tricky. One of the hard things about this is learning how to work with different materials. I'm sure there are people out there that do a lot of sewing work and stuff that can do a lot better than I can, but I'm still learning with it. And I'm getting much better at it. Now, that Blade head sculpt I picked up on eBay for $20. So it comes with the sunglasses and everything. So that was probably the easiest custom figure I've made. Now, it doesn't come with the accessories that the actual release came with, but I can fill them in as I go along. And that's the thing, like, a lot of these, they are very expensive. I mean, Hot Toys now is going for, they're approaching $300 per figure.
Wow.
When you see the detail in them, they're worth every penny of it if you're a collector. Personally, I can't justify buying all these figures for myself. It's just like there's way too many other uses that I need for that money instead of like putting them up on a shelf in an action figure. But
yeah, like you said, a car payment.
Yeah.
And by the way, Andy, there are 4 comments in the chat about how great that Blade is that you made the rest of all the costuming. And the Time Prophet asks, did you use real leather?
It's a pleather. There's a customizing company on I know they have a Facebook page where they sew these costumes. This is like a pleather, but there is a company, they buy this very, very, very thin leather from Italy, and they will make one of the common issues with a lot of these figures is when you get a leather outfit, it'll break down and it'll start to flake away.
Especially if you play with it, I would think.
No, it's actually more environmental, like humidity and so forth. Like if you have it in a case where the temperature and the humidity is controlled, you won't get the issue. Now, there are some things that you can do where you paint it with some kind of a finish, and is supposed to stop it. I haven't tried that though. Some of these things, like there are early attempts to do like seamless bodies, are they were less than perfect. Like the silicone would crack, and you would have these like seamless arms, but over time, the silicone would crack, and you would have like you spent $300 for a figure, and now like the arms hanging off. It's like you would have to try and cover it with something. But now the silicone in these Fison bodies, I haven't heard of anybody complain that they've had any problems with them.
Actually, I have a pleather jacket, and it's not within reach, but I bought it in 2006 or 2007, and it's the only problem I have with it is the zipper at the bottom, but it hasn't flaked or anything.
Yeah, that's sometimes it's funny because sometimes people will have a figure that hasn't had any of those problems, but the majority of other people have, and it just I guess it's just luck of the draw or whatever. But there's a company called G-Wiz Customs on Facebook, and they make costuming. Like I wanted a Bucky Barnes figure from World War II, and they had this thing. It was like $300 for the outfit, but it was worth every penny of it. I didn't buy it because I just didn't have that kind of money that I could justify buying a custom figure for. But there's a lot of these things out there that they'll make comic accurate outfits, but very, very clean looking. So they do a great job with that. And there's so many contractors, if you will, that can handle so much of this stuff. Like I said, it's a great time to get into the hobby because you can find literally anything you could possibly want, really.
Very cool. And by the way, I would like to welcome Anti-Derivative Jill. Hello,
Good evening.
Jill.
Hi, Jill.
Hey there.
How are you?
Doing wonderful. I love watching these streams, and Andy Masterson is so talented, and it's just really neat to see what he's created, what he's collected, and I can't wait
And such a nice guy.
This is finished.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jill. I talked over you.
Oh yeah, I agree completely.
Well,
and the Time Prophet has some advice for me on my jacket. Run pencil lead up the zipper. The carbon makes it run better. Thanks. I'll try that. And Stephen Murray is here. Hello. Hail. Andy, you're very talented. Keep it up, buddy.
Yeah, you really are so very talented. You're creating things that that we love, and since Hollywood has been letting us down lately, it's really neat to be able to find a way to celebrate the new creators that are filling our lives with entertainment right now. Like
that's
talking Cardinal Sin.
That's one of my the byproducts, if you will, of this is that you don't realize it, but like as entertainment has let us down, we found alternate entertainment, and people have genuine affection for the creators on YouTube that because you're very genuine. You're very I don't know too many people that can live stream throughout the week and not have your true personality show. You would be you'd have to be one hell of an actor, to be able to put on that kind of performance and not be likable. You wouldn't have.
Although, man, I have to say, occasionally you do run into those types, but you're talking about a different kind of acting.
Yeah, right. But it's and the thing that bothers me is like that when a tribalism creeps in, because everybody's got their favorites, and everybody wants to. There's some people that want the drama. They want infighting between like this one and that one. Like, don't you get enough of that with Hollywood? Don't you get enough of that? Like,
exactly.
Dividing people.
Let's stick to the things we enjoy.
Yeah,
there's no reason to. There's no room for hate.
Right. We're all fighting the same fight, and whether like somebody wants to listen to rumors and have some hope, or some people are just like, all I want to do is complain about something, and that's justified. That's fine. Like, I like to rant and complain about things too. It's like, but I don't hold out too much hope that corporations are able anymore to really create the quality that they should be. It's a bunch of yes men. Nobody has the courage to make a decision. Nobody wants to take a chance. It's why you get like remakes of everything.
And speaking as a screenwriter, Hollywood is very ageist. It's not as ageist as it used to be, but it's still ageist. And that applies to the suits that Greenlight shows, which explains why we have so many awful shows that keep getting renewed, etc. In any case, we are at 2 hours and 17 minutes. I'm sure Andy needs to go eat and take care of his family and teach. So, hail, Orville Nation.
Hey, PJ.
Good to see you here. And Jill, do we have everything ready for our giveaway of our Indiana Jones Ultra HD 4 movie box set?
Yes, we do. We have the wheel ready to go whenever you're ready.
All right, bring it in.
All right.
Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So give the wheel a spin. Mr. MH.
Congratulations.
Huzzah. Congratulations.
Wow, congratulations, Mr. MH.
That's great. Now I can send this and his previous winning DVD box set, although I don't know if the prescription against mailing things to Australia has ended yet or not.
Well, when it has, he's got some wonderful gifts coming his way.
He does. That's great. Congratulations. Congrats. And yes, it is a nice prize. And hail, Rod Thunderheart.
Yeah, normally, I'm hesitant to put my name on the wheel, but this time I had no problem putting my name there.
Good. I'm glad. All right. And I have Mr. MH's information, so no need to email me again, although you can if you like. Canadian Spider-Man brings up a good point. And let's double check and just see if we did hit 600 subscribers. Nope, still at 598.
Just two more to go. We can do this.
Andy, I don't know if I mentioned this to you or not, but this is technically my 600 subscriber celebration stream.
That's awesome.
As well. So,
congratulations. Well deserved. I mean, you put in the
not quite there yet, but thank you. I appreciate that. That's great. So, are there any final words from either you, Andy, or you, Jill, that we'd like to get in before we close up shop?
Well, I would encourage everybody that if you have any interest in collecting these things, give into it, but it is addictive. Usually your first one, everybody says, I'm just gonna get this one until the next one. It's like a tattoo.
Kind of like a tattoo, huh?
Yeah. But yeah, you will find a lot of joy and happiness in, and starting this up and picking up something that represents something important to you.
And apparently the sequel has already been greenlit. There's already a request for you to come back on sometime soon.
Oh,
Do you think that would be a problem?
Yes.
This has been so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. I enjoyed it. And Gap Stargate says, thank you, Andy Masterson, chat, and other mods. This has been a wonderful stream. Hope to see you all soon on another Cardinal Sin stream. And I
can't wait to see what you come up with next, Andy. And I can't wait to see your new Harvey figures when you get around to sharing your work on those.
Yeah, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, I should be able to start sculpting.
Sweet.
And hail our friend Fet for Hire.
There's my brother.
All right. Well, thanks, Jill, for helping us out with the wheel. Thanks, Andy. It's been a wonderful show. I think we should do it again soon.
Anytime.
And
you're welcome.
That's going to do it for tonight. So it's Cardinal Sin out.
Thank you.